Example 2, graph a hyperbola. Graph a hyperbola given this equation. Okay, so let's start with the same concept as the previous two lessons. We want the squared terms on the left, the single terms on the right, which in this case means all these stay on the left and the 28 remains on the right. You put your positive squared term first. So I'm going to have 4x squared to go first, followed by the 24x. And it doesn't change symbols because it's already on the left. I'm going to leave a blank, and I'll have the minus y squared, or plus 4y. And then I'll leave a blank because I'm going to have to complete the square on both of those, equals 28. Now, before I continue, I have to see if I need to factor out these. I learned in this parentheses I do need to factor out a 4. So when I factor out a 4, this will actually become a 6. So let's now complete the square. I know this is 6, so what I'll do is I'll take my positive 6 and divide it by 2, which gives me positive 3. Then I square that value. When I square positive 3, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 goes there, and you would think 9 goes here, but it's actually 4 times 9. So it's going to be 36 right there. That is 4 times 9. That's where I got the 36 from, right there. So 4 times 9 gives me that 36. Now I go over here. This one, I don't have, what I will do here, it doesn't appear to have anything to factor out, but I need to actually factor out the negative. So when I do that, this actually becomes a negative 4. So we now take down our negative 4, and negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. I square that. Negative 2 squared is positive 4, which doesn't make much of a difference until you realize I need to distribute this negative through. So instead of it being a positive 4, it becomes a negative 4 over here. That's because it'll be negative 1 times 4. That's where I got that from. Now we simplify. This right here, if we could do x method, we don't need to necessarily because this will be the perfect square. X squared plus 6x plus 9 is the perfect squared. X plus 3, quantity squared. There's a 4 out front, so that 4 remains. And then I subtract. Here I have, this is the perfect square, y minus 2 quantity squared. And on the right side, we have 28 plus 36, which is 64 minus 4, which I get is 60. Now that I have 60 here, I'm going to divide everything by that 60 to get it equal to 1. So I divide this by 60. I divide this by 60. And I divide this by 60. When I do, I should get a simplified equation. Here it's x plus 3 quantity squared over 15 minus, here this would be y minus 2 quantity squared over 60 equals 1. Now I'm going to just show you the graph and we'll talk about it from here. What we've done is we found our center by going up 2 units but left 3 units. So if I go over here, I should be left 3, which they're counting by 2, so that's left 3 and up 2. So that's perfect. And then when we talk about from there is we would find our vertex. How do you find your vertex? You take the square root of 15, which is almost 4. So remember these are counting by 2, so it should be almost 1 block, 2 blocks. So it's just short of that, which is accurate. And then to know how far up and down, you take the square root of this number. So the square root of 60, which would be closest to it's almost 8, not quite 8. If we go up and down 8 units, which again will be about 4 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you went up 4 blocks just short of it, that's where this asymptote goes through. And so that's how they got this graph. Now let's these exact equations, the asymptotes, as a reminder, how we get those is we would take, you could say y equals plus or minus, and you do the square root of the y value, that's the rise, over the run. So it'd be the square root of 60 divided by the square root of 15x plus b. Now square roots, when you divide, you can divide them. So you would have, and this would be reduced to become the square root of 4 plus or minus square root of 4x plus b. Now one more step here. What is the square root of 4? It is 2. So it'd be y equals plus or minus 2x plus b. How do you find your b? You would plug in this point that we started with, the center here, this -3 and +2. We could plug those in and solve really quickly. So to find it exactly, I know they're given there, you would just simply plug in that point. So to do it once, I would have for my y +2. So 2 equals, and I'll do the +2 first, times my x, which is -3, plus b. This is -6. You add the -6 over, you find out that 8 equals b. And so when I have the +2 slope, I should have 8, which I do. So that would give me y equals 2x plus 8. And if I wanted to do it again, I would just then say -2 here. So I would do the same exact math, except that this time I'd plug in a -2 here. And if you plug in a -2 there, you'd end up with -2 times -3, which is +6 plus b. You subtract, this would be b2, this is b1. You subtract the 6 over, and you would have -4 equals b2. And that's how they got this second b. So that's just a review of all that. And finally, I forgot about foci. If you wanted the foci, you'd use the formula c squared equals, you take your a squared, 15, and you would subtract the b squared, which is -60. These would turn positive, and so your c squared would equal 75, and c is plus or minus the square root of 75, which would be 5 square roots of 3. The way I got that is because that would be c equals plus or minus square root 25 times square root 3. That's where I got 5 square roots of 3. And so that's how you could get your foci from here. So you'd go out 5. So we'd go, these are counting by 2s. And so you would have 5 square roots of 3, which is going to be a little bit more than 8, but less than 9. So from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's where you'd get that. It would be a little bit less than 9. Which, as I look at this, I realize these foci are way too far off, because this, like I said, is somewhere between 8 and 9, and we started left 3. So if you subtracted, like say 8.5 from that, you get negative 11.5. So it really should be somewhere in, if this is -10 right here, this is -12, negative 11.5. The foci should be right in here somewhere. And over here, it's kind of the same thing. It should be -3, then you would add it, so it'd be 5 point something. So it'd be actually right in there. Those are the foci. These are off here and there. Now here's one for you to try. See which graph you can come up with from here.